Hey, good afternoon. This is Infinity Training, Hometown Realty 2021 in our new maskless world. So we'll get right into it. Wanted to talk about, I guess the topic was rules to run your business. Most of the stuff that I had written down about 15 years ago. And I just went through a bunch of notes and tried to find stuff that I'd been exposed to that meant a lot to me, and wanted to sort of make some like a 10 commandments kind of thing for myself to follow and read from time to time. And that seemed to guide me pretty well. So I thought I'd share that with you today, but I wanted to give you a couple of quotes. If you don't follow or receive Mike Ferry's Motivational Monday emails, one of my favorite ones came across this Monday. It said, "Someone once told me not to bite off more than I can chew." I said, "I'd rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity." I'd rather choke on greatness than nibble on mediocrity. I thought that was an incredible quote. So anyway, we'll start with that and then just get right into these points. I have 11. I may have said 10 in the initial email, but I have 11 of these commandments, if you will. And I'll go through these and then we'll talk a little bit about them as we go. First thing I said, I realized quick in the business that my mindset or our mindset is what's really going to make the difference. That sounds weird, but what I see and over my 26 years in the business is people that don't have the right mindset tend to never succeed. And if they do, they can't succeed for a long time. So I wrote down, to build a stronger mindset, you need to spend time with the right people and on the right thoughts. We need to have a lot of support along the way to stay on track. So it's impossible to have too many positive influences. So, we've talked about this before. There are so many things in the world that are negative: the news, the newspaper, some of your friends, some of the people you hang around with, sort of life situations in general sometimes are that way. So you need to try to get away from that. You need to try to fill your mind with good stuff and be around people that are big thinkers and that are going to be positive influences on you versus people that are negative. So there were folks back in the day that I had to veer away from because they were poisoning my thinking. And there were things that I was doing that was poisoning my thinking, like reading the newspaper and watching the news all the time or listening to talk radio or whatever it might be, versus trying to hang around with people that were big thinkers. I hired a coach early in my career, and every week I got to talk to somebody who just helped me think way outside of the box. Most of us are able to usually maybe overestimate our short-term goals. We want to lose 100 pounds in 2 weeks or whatever else, but we want to make $1 million by the end of the year. But where we fall short in the big thinking is really the long-term goals. So, having the right mindset helps you not only in the short term and the long term. So to build a stronger mindset, you need to spend time with the right people and on the right thoughts. You just can't have too many good people around you, and you can't put too much positive stuff in. So that's number one. All right. Number two, when we are not thinking of our dreams and goals, we're not thinking about the right things. Especially at first, when you're trying to get this ball rolling, when you're trying to get over the hurdle, you've got to have your eyes on the prize. You've got to know why you're doing this. Are you doing this for your family? Are you doing this to prove something to your parents? Are you doing this to come out of debt? Are you doing this so that you can have the things you want to do? You can buy and give things to other people and to community things like churches or whatever else. What are you doing this for? Because when the going gets tough, that's where you got to fall back and you got to say, you know what? This is a slight setback, but how good is it going to feel when I can show my family that I've succeeded, when I can give the money to my church or whatever it might be. It's easy. If you're just punching the clock, then hell, this thing can beat you up. And in today's world, you can go and write, 10 offers and they all get rejected. And you may just say, the heck with it. But not if you've got real goals, not if you've got real visions and dreams. So when you're not thinking of your dreams and goals, you're not thinking about the right stuff. So remember that. So come up with some kind of goal and keep it in front of you. Don't just put it in the desk drawer. Keep it in front of you, and know that you've got to be focusing on your dreams and goals. So the third thing is that I realized this really early in my career. There's some pretty major challenges that are going to face all of us in this business. Okay. And these may not be the challenges that you think of. So first is you got to get your ego out of the way. Right? What does that mean? All right. Your ego is what sort of keeps you from changing. It keeps you from admitting your faults. It keeps you from listening to advice from other people, and it's going to keep you from being successful. So you got to get your ego out of the way and realize that there are things you need to learn. There are things that you don't know, and there are new behaviors, and maybe you just need to reinvent yourself as a real estate salesperson versus what you've been previously in your life. That is a huge undertaking to change your ego or to get your ego out of the way. All right. So that was the first one. So the three major changes in business: getting your ego out of the way. The second is the inability to change your behavior. So really what that boils down to is discipline. Discipline, the ability to do what you know is right and what you need to do, even when no one is watching. That's sort of my definition of discipline. And so in order to change your behavior, which we've got to do, none of us are natural salespeople in real estate. I mean, there may be a few that have some tendencies that way, but most of us are not natural. We've got to change what we do. We need to prospect. We need to follow up with our leads. We need to learn our skills and our presentations. We need to continuously educate ourselves. We need to put positive stuff in our brains. So all this behavior stuff is probably not what we used to do, and now what we need to do. Okay, so it's hard to change your behavior. It's the older you are, the harder it is to change. They say you can't teach an old dog a new trick. Well, I disagree with that. I think you can. It just takes a lot of discipline if you've decided you want to do that. Okay, maybe some accountability in that as well. So that's the challenge, the inability to change your behavior. The third one is the lack of commitment to get out of your own way and do what it takes to win. So think of the great opportunity you have being in the real estate business. I mean, it's unbelievable. In so many countries, you could never change and get into a career where your ability to earn is unlimited. We have people that make well over $1 million a year selling real estate, and they're just normal people, just like you and me. Okay. It's an incredible opportunity that we have, but they've had to get out of their own way and do what it takes. What does it take? It's going to take, like I said, getting rid of your ego, making sure you change your behavior. And it's going to take a lot of ass busting. You're going to have to work. Okay. It's not easy. No one who is successful in this business just sort of half-asses, excuse my French, but you've got to get out and do it. And you've got to put the time in, and you've got to do the things that it takes to get successful. And ultimately, you got to get out of your own way. So much of the failure that I see from real estate agents is self-inflicted. It's the negativity, and it's the inability to change, and it's just trying to force a round peg in a square hole, which we know that's just not going to work. Okay, so that's the third challenge. So the three challenges, again: getting your ego out of the way, inability to change your behavior, and the lack of commitment to getting out of your own way and to doing what it takes. Just saying, you know what, screw this, I'm going to do what it takes to be successful. And then it's unbelievable where you'll find yourself if you do that. All right, number 4, back to the rules to run your real estate business. Number 4, this is something that I found early on, okay? And I'm not discounting the fact that we need to develop our presentations and we need to work on our skills. But I'll tell you this: setting an appointment or closing on an appointment is about 10% what you say and 90% about what's going on in your head. Okay. It's let's use another word, self-confidence. If you believe in yourself, if you know you're good at this, and you know that the people are going to react well to you, and you can just visualize success, then you're almost there. Unless you're just speaking like an absolute idiot, you're going to be successful. So when you develop that confidence, okay, then good things start to happen. And you have to, you almost, I'm going to say this term again in this presentation, but you have to fake it till you make it. You have to somehow convince yourself that you are good at this and you know what you're doing. And here's the thing: even if you don't know all the answers, there's people behind you that do. I can help you. Mike can help you. Rodney can help you. Becky Parker can help you. There's so many people. The person who sits at the desk next to you, we've developed a culture where people help each other. So if you don't know the answer to something, don't fear that. Just say, hey, you know what? I'll get back to you on that. I can get that real quickly for you. So victory in this, setting an appointment, closing on appointments, all those things, it's about 10% what you say and about 90% what's going on in your head. Okay, the next one, regardless of your skill level, all right, and I told myself this early on in my career. I said, there's bound to be things that they're going to take me time to learn as far as developing skills. Okay, but regardless of my skill level, the more I prospect, the more deals I'm going to get. Okay, plain and simple. And it works the same way today. If you feel like you've still got a lot to learn, then you just got to double down on your prospecting. You just got to talk to more people. Then over time, as you become more efficient in your skills, you're going to have a higher closing ratio. Okay, but that doesn't matter now. You need to just double down on prospecting. You need to go knocking on doors. You need to make sure that you're in contact with all of your people over the telephone. You need to make sure you're doing pop-bys, make sure you're doing notes, make sure you're, now that COVID is nearly over, try to get going with some more business to business opportunities, start a referral group, go even knock on doors in businesses, just meet people. Okay, double down on your prospecting efforts and the deals are going to follow. It's just plain and simple. It's a numbers game. Not to depersonalize this or take relationships out, but it is a numbers game. The more relationships you have, the more likely you are to get a deal. All right, that was number 5. Number 6, it's okay. All right, I had a hard time with this one. It's okay to lose a potential client by pre-qualifying them. Okay, meaning we had an example the other day in the office. There was a agent in the Ashland office who was trying to work with a client who was just totally unreasonable, you know, and every bit of advice this person asked this, you know, was working with this client, they just pushed back so hard. And I was thinking to myself, you know, what he should do is probably not hang up on him. Obviously that's rude, but tell him, you know, this is not going to work. So pre-qualifying doesn't just mean financial pre-qualification. It doesn't just mean the right motivation. It can also mean just person to person. Are we just bashing heads? You know, you have to be willing to compromise and do certain things, but you don't have to work with everybody out there. One of the great quotes that I remember when I was working with Mike Ferry, it's a favorite of his, came from a guy named Earl Nightingale. And he said, we are not in the business of uplifting the downtrodden. So, you know, don't feel like you got to be a psychologist or some kind of counselor in every step of the way. I mean, there's going to be some of that, but, you know, don't just take pity on people that are never going to buy a house and waste a lot of your time trying to help them. Because if it ain't going to happen, you don't want to be involved in it. If you can help people, then help people. That's what we try to do. But if it's going to be misery for you, or if it's never going to happen, then you need to pull the plug, and you're doing them a favor too. You don't want to waste their time or lead them on. So it's okay to lose potential clients by pre-qualifying. You know, if they're not able to do anything, then we don't want to lead them on or waste our time or their time. Okay, the next one. You know, and let's get back to number 6. So I found myself doing that all the time. If anybody could put their fog on a mirror, I felt like, well, gee, I need to try to turn them into a real estate prospect, and that just doesn't happen. Okay, they're either qualified or they're not. They're either gonna work well with me or they're not. And I spent a ton of time wasting my time on people that just were terrible. You know, it's these folks. The longer, sometimes people feel like, well, if I work on them longer, then maybe it'll help. Though it's not like a bottle of wine. It doesn't get better. It doesn't get better with age. Okay. All right. Number 7. First impressions are critical. Okay. We're not supposed to judge a book by its cover. Okay. You're not. You know, that's just that they tell us don't do that. But that's what everyone does. That's just how the human mind works. We see something and we compare it to past experiences, or we think it looks like something that we've seen before or whatever, or we just judge based on what we see. Okay, so if your first impression is not positive, then you're starting behind the 8 ball, as they say. So I wrote this: first impressions are critical, from the clothes we wear, to the smile on our face, to the strength of our handshake, to the cleanliness of our vehicle, to everything. And I wrote down upgrade everything, and realize that they are always watching. So here's the point to this that I think people don't hear. Okay, we do a lot on social media. We wear name tags. We try to call attention to ourselves as real estate agents. I think we'd all agree to that, right? The thing is, a lot of times you're doing yourself a disservice because you don't know when that attention is going to come. So if you just decide that you're going to dress down on Friday or whatever day it is, or you're going to, you're not going to take care of yourself, you're not going to shave, or you're not going to comb your hair, or you're not going to do whatever, or your car looks like crap, people are watching you. Okay, so if you're brand new and you don't really have the greatest set of skills, and you don't have all that much experience, and you don't look very professional, why in the hell would somebody want to work with you when there's over 5,000 other agents that they could choose? So there's a thing where you need to get your ego out of the way and realize, why don't I put myself in the absolute best position to be successful and try upgrading some of these things? I mean, you are what you are. I mean, God gave me this, right? I'm never going to be a supermodel. I'm not, but I usually try to comb my hair. I usually try to be presentable. I usually try to shave. I usually try to wear something that is somewhat professional. I'm actually, for me, I feel like I'm dressed down somewhat today, but nonetheless, I try to act, walk, and behave as a professional most of the time. And you need to do the same thing, okay? Because they are watching. Realize that they are watching. Okay. Next. And this is along the same lines with first impressions. And this is something that you can do, just like looking your best. You can do this without having a lot of skills. You can be one day on the job and you can have this. Be energetic and enthusiastic. Why? Because most people, not everybody, but most people like that. I mean, energy and enthusiasm is contagious, and people follow that. Okay, they follow that. Like, no one really, on Winnie the Pooh, if you're old enough to remember Winnie the Pooh, no one really wanted to hang around with Eeyore, okay? Tigger was more of a popular, now maybe Tigger's over the top, but, energy is contagious. I wrote this down: be energetic and enthusiastic, even if you have to fake it, okay? Because some days you're not going to feel like that, but even if you have to fake it during your presentations and your interactions with clients, because, and listen to this, because logic makes them think, but energy and emotion make them act, right? People want to take action when they see that you're fired up about something. When you're enthusiastic and energetic about something, they want to follow that. So they want to take action. So remember that. House number 8, energy and enthusiasm. Again, doesn't cost anything. It's just you making up your mind to do it and then showing your face. All right. So number 9. Since objections are bound to come up, are objections going to come up in selling, whether it be real estate, cars, whatever it is? Yes. Every single salesperson is going to deal with objections. So since we know they're going to come up, and we know that we really sort of know what they are. I mean, if you go and look at some of the videos we have on objection handling, the objections are really all, there's 10 or 15 of them that just, maybe there's newer ones that are first cousins of those, but they're all basically right around those 10 or 15. So knowing that, why don't we learn those? Why don't we become better? Why don't we become better at handling objections? Why don't we even think about it at all? Most of us never think about becoming better at handling objections. We never practice. And therefore, in the real world, we get our teeth kicked in because we're not ready. I mean, I know that if I had to go to war, I would need to work on my marksmanship. I would need to get in better shape. I would need to learn to fight. I would need to learn to use a knife. I mean, I would prepare for those things so I didn't get killed, right? That's why we have training in our armed forces, and every armed forces in the country or in the world. So in this, when you're going to go out and do battle in the world of real estate to try to earn clients and take listings, and knowing that there are objections out there, let's get better at that. Let's learn to become better at handling objections. Become the Jedi master of handling objections, and success is going to follow. And I've said this, if you've listened to any of these videos from me before, what really is funny that happens when you really become a master of handling objections is then the objections don't come up anymore. And if you fear objections, that's when you're inviting them to come in. That's weird how the world works like that, but that is true. Okay. So I knew right up front early on, I said, as soon as I really started studying the sales skills and the science of that, I knew right away, I got to become better at handling objections. So I would rehearse and role play objections every day. And I enjoyed doing it. It was fun. So maybe you can share in that same strategy. All right. Number 10, closing is a natural end to a business conversation. Some people don't have this trouble. I had this. When I was first starting out and early on in my career, I never really tried to close. I never wanted to be a pushy jerk salesperson. And I still don't think that I'm that. I'm not afraid to close. I'm not afraid to ask, as they used to say in sales books, ask for the order or close. So let's do the right thing. Let's go ahead and get your house on the market, or let's go ahead and commit that we're going to be working together to get your house on the market once you've painted the living room and cleaned out the backyard. Let's commit to each other so that we can get this thing going. Won't that be great? I mean, that's a close versus just walking out and hoping. The reason we don't close is we don't want the rejection. We don't want to hear the objections. So we just walk out and hope. And I think hoping, just like hoping for prospects, that's not a good prospecting method. You got to take action. And in trying to get the deals, the action you need to take is to close. So closing is a natural end to a business conversation. They wouldn't have had you over if they didn't expect that you were going to ask them for the business. All right. And then lastly, and I'd put a star by this one, don't be attached to the outcome. Don't be attached to the outcome. And don't get me wrong, it's not that you don't care if a deal closes or if you get the listing or whatever else, but you can't become attached to the outcome to where it is allowing you to exhibit irrational behavior or desperation. That's just no good, because here's the bottom line. Here's the dirty little secret in real estate. All right. There's over 5,000 agents in Richmond, and the average agent does about 2 deals a year, maybe even less now. Okay. So the average agent is so desperate to get a deal. And when they are desperate to pay their car payment and to pay their house payment and to pay to support themselves, if they're that desperate, whose best interests are they looking out for? Are they looking out for the client's interest? Or are they looking out for their own interest? I would like to say they're able to not look out for their own interest, but that's probably not the case. And the more deals you do, the more times you realize that the majority of the agents out there are doing one thing, and they're looking out for themselves. And I'll tell you this, if you take the approach of looking out for your clients and putting their best interest first, which is what we're supposed to do and sworn to do, good things are going to happen for you. Good things are going to happen for you. I wrote this down. Never let them smell desperation on your breath, because as soon as the client senses you are desperate, then they realize they've got the wrong person on the job. So let's hope that never becomes a problem for you or myself. Okay. Don't be attached to the outcome. You've got to be willing to keep the best interest, and you want to do everything you can. But if the deal falls apart, the deal falls apart. Then let's walk back. The people are paying you and looking to you for guidance and unemotional attachment to this transaction. They want you to be attached to the transaction. They don't want you to be emotionally attached to the transaction. You're the one who's supposed to keep the level keel, keep things going. And when it's bad, you've got to be the voice of reason. And if the plug gets pulled or the bomb blows up or whatever, you're the one who's got to pick up the pieces, sweep them off, dust them off, and then get back in the game. Okay. That's the deal. So that's the 10 things or the 11 things that I wanted to share with you today. It's been about 20 minutes. So hopefully we didn't take up too much of your time. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at 244-1022. And I'd love to talk to you about that. Otherwise, thanks for what you do. And hopefully you have a great day. Enjoy this wonderful weather. We'll see you soon.